My father passed away suddenly when I was about 5 or so. According to my mother, the doctors explained it as a heart attack. He was playing a pickup game of basketball and that was it. But as I grew older, something didn't make sense. My dad was a runner. He ran marathons, full marathons. He was in shape, great shape. I just couldn't wrap my mind around it. How could someone like that just die suddenly of a heart attack? It all started to make sense after my first son, James, was born. In the years following, I grew more and more tired. I just had a kid, so I figured I needed more sleep. I started to lose breath more and more. And then, about 10 years ago, I just passed out. It was strange. I was at the gym, not doing a whole lot. Next thing I know, I'm on the ground looking at the ceiling. After that, everything changed. I went to the doctor. They ran an echocardiogram. They determined I have a condition called hypertrophic cardiomyopathy. It's a rare genetic condition that causes the heart muscles to thicken up. It's like on the news when the high school football player just dies suddenly during practice. It was at that moment I knew my dad did not die of a heart attack. This is what killed my father.
Hypertrophic cardiomyopathy is a genetic heart condition that results in thickened heart muscle. It can cause symptoms of heart failure, like fatigue and shortness of breath. For some individuals, there's a tendency to serious heart rhythm problems, and even a risk of sudden death at a young age.
I was 8 years old when my mom passed out. I remember being picked up from school by my grandma. It was weird and scary. Over the next few months, my mom had a ton of doctor's appointments and even a surgery.
Almost immediately, I had an operation to implant a defibrillator. I had leads implanted into my heart. Essentially, if I went into cardiac arrest, this little thing would shock it back into rhythm. Overall, the surgery was fine, really. And a few years later, I was sitting on the couch, and I started to get this fluttering sensation, and I almost passed out. The defibrillator gave me a shock. The doctor said the defibrillator probably saved my life. But having a genetic condition like this, my main concern is for my son.
The doctors explained to me that there was a possibility that I could have the same genetic condition. I was only 8 at the time, and I was just a little bit older before they did genetic testing for me.
As medical research shed light on hypertrophic cardiomyopathy, physicians found better ways to treat it. In the 1990s, implanted defibrillators became a primary treatment for the prevention of sudden death for individuals with hypertrophic cardiomyopathy. Early defibrillator units were large and required surgical implantation into the abdomen. With research advances and technology, defibrillator units became small enough to be the size of pacemakers and easily implanted under the clavicle.
About 7 years after my device was installed, I needed a new one. They replaced it with a state-of-the-art subcutaneous defibrillator. And it was about this time that my husband and we decided it was time to have James genetically tested.
I was genotype positive, but I was phenotype negative. I had the abnormal gene, but not the thick heart muscle. But I could eventually develop issues.
It is so difficult to look at your child and know the struggles he will go through. And a few years later, James started to get short of breath when he was running. He had an echo test, and it was positive for hypertrophic cardiomyopathy.
Thanks in part to funding from organizations like the American Heart Association, Medical advancements have been increasing at rapid rates. Just in the last 2 decades, defibrillator technology has advanced rapidly. The devices are smaller and easier for patients to tolerate. Research has also shown that they reduce the likelihood of death for individuals with high risk, including our patients with hypertrophic cardiomyopathy. But despite these advances, we can do more.
We went to work right away. I had this small defibrillator implanted right under my skin. I stopped playing sports, and I even started taking some medication to help with the symptoms. I remember what my mom went through, and it wasn't great. But my experience, it was significantly easier.
We were relieved. We knew how the condition worked, and we had a game plan. And the amazing part is, it's just gonna keep getting better and better. I mean, who even knows what they'll be able to do for my grandkids, and their kids, and their kids.
The advancements in treatment of hypertrophic cardiomyopathy mean fewer people are dying suddenly. We're shifting from reactive treatments to proactive or preventative treatments, and patients can get personalized treatment plans. Defibrillators are becoming smaller, safer, smarter, and more effective. New medications in development for hypertrophic cardiomyopathy and currently being tested in clinical trials are promising reduced symptoms and even potentially a less likelihood of thickening of the heart muscle. For this genetic disease, genetic engineering in the future may allow us to prevent the development of heart muscle thickening in hypertrophic cardiomyopathy. By research supported by the American Heart Association, we are developing the tools to eventually eliminate this disease.
It has been nearly 10 years since someone lost their life to hypertrophic cardiomyopathy. It's amazing to me when I look back at my father, at my grandmother. It's because of all the doctors and researchers who worked with patients like my father that I no longer have to worry about cardiomyopathy. My future kids, my future grandkids, this genetic condition, it is no longer a killer.
Right now, at this moment, we are paving the way for a future without the death and disability from hypertrophic cardiomyopathy.
I often wonder what my life would be like if my father had the same treatment that we have available today. Luckily, my kids and my grandkids won't have to wonder.
I can live my life knowing that my future children won't have to ask what happened to their dad.
I can live my life knowing that I don't have to worry about hypertrophic cardiomyopathy.
The work we are doing today is saving lives of future generations to come.
It saved my life.
It's saving my future children's lives.
And it is creating a world without the fear of sudden death.
Research can only thrive with funding, and it's that funding that advances the technology, the effective treatments, and the future of our medical care.
Donate for all those living with hypertrophic cardiomyopathy. Donate for all the future generations. The daughters, the sons, the granddaughters, the grandsons. Your children and mine.
We've come a long way, but there's still a long way to go. We can do more.
We can do more.
We can do more.